Common Cause Felicia Fields. She is, Your Honor.
Step this way, ma'am, please.
Solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Please state your name and occupation for the court.
My name is Felicia Fields. I'm a supervisor dispatcher with communications.
And Ms. Fields, were you employed in that capacity on April 22nd of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
For about 19 years.
Okay. And you've been employed in that capacity for 19 years as a supervisor or just total?
Total.
Okay. And how long have you been a supervisor?
For about 8 years.
Thank you, ma'am. What are your duties and responsibilities in this role?
My duties are to oversee, I take incoming calls, assist police officers, call wreckers, dispatch medics. I staff a department of about 9.
Okay, thank you. As a part of your duties, are you required to maintain recordings of 911 calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when I say CADS records, do you know what that means?
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean?
Computer aid dispatch.
Do you maintain those as well as a part of your duties?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are these recordings and these records required to be kept and maintained in the ordinary course of business with your agency?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On April 22nd, 2015, was a 911 call placed in regard to an incident that took place at 1098 Frederick Boulevard here in the city of Portsmouth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at that time that the 911 call came in, was there a recording that was kept of that 911 call?
Yes, ma'am.
And was it preserved in any way?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How was it recorded and preserved?
We have a computer in the back. It's a nice computer that records all incoming calls.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you the same thing about those CADS records. Were there records generated as a result of what happened on April 22nd with reference to the 1098 Frederick Boulevard incident in that morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how was that? Was that recorded in any way or preserved?
Yes, ma'am. That was recorded also.
Okay, and how was that done?
That was recorded by the recorder in the back and also CAS notes. We had a dispatcher type everything that the caller called in reference to the incident.
Okay, so that computer in the back does a lot of things in terms of keeping records for your agency.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point was this recording that we talked about, was that recorded and preserved on a disc?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I approach? All right, and while I'm on my way to you as well, were those CAD notes printed off?
Yes, ma'am.
And may I show you 2 items and ask if you recognize them?
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Recognize these items?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does this item here appear to be?
That's the disc that the recording was placed on, and that's the CAS notes that the dispatcher took when the call actually came in.
Okay, do you recognize the handwriting on this disc?
Yes, ma'am.
Whose handwriting is that?
That's my handwriting.
All right. And Your Honor, we would at this time, and actually, I'm going to ask you, have you seen this disc since you provided it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, may I move to admit the disc is Commonwealth Exhibit number 1 and the CAD notes is Commonwealth Exhibit number 2.
Judge, we can see the cabinets. objection, Your Honor.
So received. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach? And Your Honor, after the disc has been properly marked as an exhibit, we would like to play it at this time for Ms. Fields and for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. May I approach? Thank you, sir.
Definitely. Pull up the screen for the jury.
Shop up there at Wal-Mart, 1098 Frederick Boulevard.
And I have to, look at, Rankin, look up there. Is it just audio?
It's just audio.
It's just audio?
Yes, sir.
So for located in the shoe department, black male asking with a gray hoodie and black scarf, multicolored, sweatbands, black hat, gray sneakers, male concealing clothing. He's moving towards the front near the general merchandise exit. You don't have dark ticket. Typical stand by. Looking for you, walk out by the service. Typical stand by. 11, you can clear this morning again. 214-11. Five, what you in service? Different 5, what you.
Person 911, dispatcher Curry, how can I help you?
Hey, correct. Call about a shoplifter.
Yes.
I'm calling because you're leaving the tour on Wal-Mart, but you leave out the store now. I'm calling in my car.
Which way is he going?
We just got out of my garden center exit, but just heading towards like the Wendy's and shit.
And he's wearing multicolored sweat?
Correct. Well, you walk across which point goes like Chick-fil-A right there.
Towards Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Okay, do you see the officer?
Yeah, I'm looking for him off that over. I see him.
You see him? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just show him where the guy is. Did you see him? Sure.
No problem. The male is now leaving the location last week headed towards the Wendy's, left out of the garden center, walking across the parking lot towards the Chick-fil-A.
Very good. Picture for one month. I'll be able to suspects verify the exit fleet and cost toward the house. One shot fired, suspect down.
Just on units, put there 451 shots fired, one down. Eli Hop, Fred Boulevard.
Ticket number, where's he at?
Take a view right near Eli Hop. Just 180.
151 by the meeting, Eli Hop, right across from the rally. He's unresponsive, have a standby for soon, get him in here. I want to have medics stay by the Wells Fargo, so it'll be close. 151, I'm not getting a full start speak up. What's your location? Right by the main Wal-Mart sign, right by, Kroger, right across the street from the rally. Let me hold stop for a second, I'm doing CPR. Start setting up the crime scene as soon as you can so we get medics in.
Good? Okay. Thank you for your patience. Ms. Fields, does this contain a fair and accurate recording of the 911 call that was placed on April 22nd regarding the incident at 1098 Frederick Boulevard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions. Please answer any questions defense or the court may have for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Were you present in the 911 call center when the call was received?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were present when a dispatcher dispatched Stephen Rankin specifically to that call, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So this was not a situation where a dispatcher asked over the radio for anybody in the area. It was specifically dispatched to Stephen Rankin.
Yes, ma'am.
The recording that we've just listened to, that deletes out periods of time where there is no communication, correct?
No, ma'am.
So the length of time that we just listened to the recording is in line with the CAD notes, is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
So I would say the recording was about, I don't know, a minute and a half to 2 minutes?
Give or take.
Okay. And the CAD, Judge, may I approach to get Commonwealth's Exhibit 2? You would agree that the call came in at about 7:18 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And the shots fired was documented in the CAD notes at 7:35 a.m., correct?
Correct.
you would agree that was about 17 minutes
Correct.
from the call coming in to the time that the call came in that shots were fired.
Correct.
And you would agree that the 911 call that we just listened to was not 17 minutes long.
Correct.
So after considering all of that, the 911 call does not reflect any time where there are not calls being made into the 911 dispatch location or calls over the radio.
Any calls on the radio would have been on the recording.
Exactly, but the recording, as short as it was, obviously does not depict the time frame.
I'm not really understanding the question.
Sure. You testified that you agree that the call came in at about 7:18.
Yes.
And the shots fired notification was at 7:35, so about 17 to 18 minutes.
Yes.
And you indicated that you would agree that the 911 recording that we just listened to was not 17 to 18 minutes long.
Correct. But in between the calls, we did get a call from the store saying that the guy was leaving, he was going this way and that way, so we would still get recordings in between.
Right, but what I'm saying is there is downtime where you all are not getting any recordings, correct?
Yes.
And that downtime is not depicted in the 911 call that we just listened to.
Exactly.
Okay. Judge, may I approach to return the exhibit? The CAD notes that we've been referring to that has been introduced as Commonwealth's Exhibit Number 2, those are shorthand notes typed in by a dispatcher.
Yes, ma'am.
Were they all typed in by the same dispatcher?
No, ma'am.
So it's whichever dispatcher receives the call.
Yes, ma'am.
How many different dispatchers typed in notes, if you know?
3.
Were you one of those?
No, ma'am.
Who were they?
Dispatcher Kareem, Dispatcher Heather Curry, and Dispatcher Christy Worley.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't have any other questions.
One brief follow-up, Your Honor.
All right.
Ma'am, just to get a little bit of clarification, so there are periods where there are downtime,
Where there's no transmission.
where there's no
No
transmission.
one is saying anything.
So when no one is saying anything, there is nothing that is recorded at that time.
Absolutely.
And do we know, do we have a way to tell what amount of time has passed between certain things being said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I know I said one question, but have a little bit more. Do you have a way of knowing from looking at the CADs how much time passed between the defendant saying stage and then medics being released to the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
How much time passed between that?
Medics were asked to stage at 7:37, and then in between that, at 7:39, they had medics come in.
Okay.
So from 7:37 to 7:39.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
No further questions. Thank you.
Let's shut down, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next witness.
Commonwealth calls Lieutenant Saucer.
please.
Solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
May I inquire, Your Honor? Please state your name and occupation.
Lieutenant Kenneth W. Saucer, Portsmouth Police Department.
And were you so employed on April 22nd, 2015?
Yes, sir.
And did there come a point in time when you participated in the investigation somewhat of a shooting at 1098 Wal-Mart, Frederick Boulevard in the city of Portsmouth?
Yes, sir.
And how did you first come aware of that incident?
I had just cleared from a traffic stop that morning, approximately 7:18 a.m. I was on the Western Freeway. Cleared from a traffic stop, made my way onto Martin Luther King Expressway. I heard a message come out on my police radio that he was leaving from the Lawn Garden Center. I was not aware of what type of call it was. I assumed it was a shoplifting message. I proceeded from Martin Luther King Freeway onto London Boulevard, headed eastbound, and I heard 151 say that he was on scene with that individual. As I was passing Norcom High School on London Boulevard, I heard a transmission to the effect of shots fired, man down. Activated my emergency equipment, made my way towards Wal-Mart. I was on Turnpike, turning on Frederick Boulevard when I encountered another police car traveling northbound Frederick Boulevard. It was another unmarked unit. While I was en route, I heard a transmission from the officer that he was near Rallies and IHOP. So as I was traveling north on Frederick Boulevard, my attention was drawn to the right towards IHOP and Rallies, and I was looking for the officer. When I didn't see him, I asked for an update where his location was, and he said that he was near the sign in front of Wal-Mart across from Rallies. I looked over to my left and I observed an officer giving chest compressions to an individual on the ground. I proceeded to the next intersection, made a U-turn, went back to Wal-Mart, entered through the front entrance. And as I was on Frederick Boulevard, the officer said stage medics, which indicated to me that there might be another threat in the area. As I turned to the Wal-Mart parking lot, I observed there were customers going in and out of the store. There was a gentleman standing on one of the grass separators in the parking lot. It was a young black gentleman with dreads. He was dark complected. I looked at him, didn't appear to be a threat. So I proceeded to park approximately 30 yards from 151's vehicle. I exited my vehicle, looked around, didn't see anything that appeared to be a threat. An ambulance appeared at the north end of the parking lot, so I said it was clear for medics.
Now, you said 151 said out with suspect at some point, is that correct?
Words to that effect.
And at that time, do you know who 151 was?
I did not know who it was at the time.
Do you now know?
I do.
And who was that?
It was Officer Stephen Rankin.
Now, you indicated that where were you when you heard the transmission out with suspect?
I was either on the Martin Luther King Freeway or London Boulevard.
And there came a point in time when you received another transmission of shots fired.
Yes, sir.
And how long was that in between? Approximately.
Less than 2 minutes, I'd say.
And where were you when you heard the transmission shots fired?
I was on London Boulevard, traveling eastbound in front of Norcom High School.
And upon hearing that, did you then proceed to the location of 1098 Frederick Boulevard?
Yes, sir.
And approximately how long did it take you to get there?
Approximately 5 minutes.
Now, did there come a point in time where you approached the location where the Officer Rankin was, Mr. Rankin was?
Yes.
And do you recall what you saw at that time?
At that time, after I cleared the medics to come in,
Yes.
other units were arriving on scene at that time. My initial concern was securing the scene. And as other units arrived, yellow crime scene tape was produced and we cordoned off pretty much the entire north end of the parking lot. I approached Officer Rankin's vehicle and I observed there was an individual lying on the ground. There were 2 9mm shell casings, a taser cartridge, and a taser also lying on the ground. At one point I was handed a grease pencil and asked to circle the cartridges. I drew circles around the 9mm casings as well as the taser cartridge, and the grease pencil ran out, and sometime before I left someone had gone back and improved those circles around those cartridges, or around the casings and the cartridge.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Showing this photograph and actually you recognize what's depicted in
This is Officer Rankin's police vehicle and Mr. Chapman, as well as the 9mm casings that I circled.
And do you see the circles on there that you made?
Yes, sir. Those are actually larger and better than the ones that I made.
But same location?
Yes, sir.
And Officer Conwell's free?
No objection, Your Honor.
I approach the Then I permission to call this as a jury.
Oh, yeah. Hey, turn this thing on.
Your Honor, may I ask this, Mr. Wiggins?
And can you turn and look at the screen?
Yes, sir.
And just for,
Step down.
okay. Is the vehicle that you are now looking at, is that the vehicle you referred to as Officer Rankin's vehicle in your testimony?
Yes, sir.
And the young... I don't know how to use it. Maybe he does. You know how to use that then?
We have a laser. It's a hot button.
Nah, you better use the pointer. You better use the pointer. And would you show us the indications that you were referring to as to where the shell casings were?
These are 9mm casings that I drew circles around. The grease pencil ran out, and someone went behind me and improved those circles.
And the location of the body is similar to the location that you were referring to?
That's where I remember.
All right. And you also mentioned that you did observe a taser in the area?
Yes, sir.
I show you this photograph and actually you recognize what's depicted in it.
That is the taser that I drew, more or less in the location where I first saw it.
Ma'am, I don't know if this combo's for, not.
No objection, Your Honor.
May I proceed?
And right now, the dispatcher.
Yes, sir.
Judge, may I approach with Commonwealth 1 to return to the court?
May I pose it to the jury?
Can you point out to where the taser is located?
This is the taser right here.
There's another object that has a circle. Do you know what that is?
This appears to be the taser cartridge, and these are the 9mm cases.
Now, you mentioned that you had crossed the paths of, I'm sorry, yes, of other, where the other units arrived. Do you recognize any of the other people who's had units that arrived?
I entered the Wal-Mart parking lot through the main entrance. There was a red or burgundy Chevy Impala that came in front through the north entrance. I believe that vehicle was driven by Detective Mannings.
May I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
I show you this photograph, actually, see the taser you referred to.
That is the taser that I referred to. When I first saw it, the light was illuminating, indicating that it was on.
Well, this is Commonwealth 5.
No objection, Your Honor.
So, proceed.
May I approach?
And just for clarification, just point to the taser. I'm quite sure they can see it, but just to be sure. That's the taser?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further this time, Your Honor. This week.
May I approach with Commonwealth 5?
Good morning, Lieutenant. It's Lieutenant, correct, Saucer?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Lieutenant Saucer, when you were headed in the direction of Wal-Mart after you heard the shots fired call, you also heard Officer Rankin indicate that he was performing CPR, correct?
That is correct.
And as appeared to be depicted in the photographs that you've testified about, the casings were to the right of Mr. Chapman, correct? Judge, may I approach to retrieve the exhibits? Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Lieutenant Saucer, I'm showing you what's been received into evidence as Commonwealth Exhibit number 3 and Commonwealth Exhibit number 4. After looking at those, I'll go back to the question.
As the photographer's facing to both be to the photographer's right.
To the photographer's right and to Mr. Chapman's left.
Correct.
Thank you. And Lieutenant Saucer, you would agree when a firearm is discharged, the casings go out?
No testimony in reference to that. He's not qualified as a firearms expert.
Lieutenant Saucer, you would agree that when a firearm is discharged, the casings go out to the right?
Yes, ma'am.
It is standard practice that if there is any dangerous scene, that medics are staged before they come in, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When you arrived on scene, was the taser positioned as it was in the photographs that you've testified about?
That I couldn't say. It was more or less in the same location that I recall seeing it initially.
Okay, do you ever recall seeing it propped up against the curb?
I don't recall.
Your focus was in other locations, I would assume. You testified about the taser cartridge being on the ground looking from the photographer's perspective to the right of the vehicle.
Yes, ma'am.
And the cartridge is what goes into the taser to shoot probes out, correct?
Yes.
And that has to be removed in order to use it in drive stun mode.
Yes.
And the
Actually, ma'am, I believe that the taser will work with the cartridge on in drive stun mode as well.
I'm sorry, what?
So you're saying
I'm
you
sorry,
can
Your Honor,
leave...
Can we have that read back? Could you repeat that, please?
He said he believes that the taser will still work in drive stun mode with the cartridge on the front.
Oh, thank you.
So your testimony is you can still use drive stun when the probes are on the front of the taser.
As I understand, the operation of a taser will work that way.
Do you carry a taser?
I do not.
And when you arrived on scene, the taser cartridge was closer to the police car than the actual taser was.
Yes, ma'am.
You said when you arrived on scene that the light on the taser was on, indicating to you that the taser was on.
There's a flashlight built into the taser, and that was eliminated.
At any point in time, did you see when it wasn't illuminated?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Lieutenant Saucer. I don't have any other questions.
I may. Other than Mr. Rankin, you were the first police officer at that location, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And as you indicated, I believe previously, you perceived no threat when you got there.
I did not.
Thank you.
Judge, if I may, just to follow up. Thank you. Lieutenant Saucer, I thought you indicated that there was a red vehicle that you believed to be Detective Manning's. His vehicle was not there when you arrived?
I pulled in to the parking lot, and as I was coming around to the place where I stopped my vehicle, at one point, Detective Manning's passed me. I don't recall if it was while I was still in my vehicle or once I exited my vehicle. We would have arrived more or less simultaneously.
And when you got there, there were other officers arriving on scene as well?
After we arrived, there were other officers that did arrive.
Thank you.
Yes.
Officer Mannings went directly to where Mr. Rankin was?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, that's all, thank you.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Call Ms. Torres, you want? Are you using it again? Yes. When we approach, Your Honor, before she comes in?
Very good.
Ms. Torres.
Solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and occupation.
Ossie Torres, I'm a Portsmouth firefighter.
Try to speak up a little bit louder.
Ossie Torres, I am a firefighter for the city of Portsmouth.
And how long have you been so employed?
December 9th, 2012.
And were you working on April 22nd, 2015?
Yes, sir.
And what were your duties that day?
I was placed on Medic 4 as an EMT enhanced.
And what does that mean to the rest of us who don't know?
Typically, there are two people that work on the medic. There's your paramedic, and then there's the EMT, basic or enhanced. I'm an enhanced, so I drove and then I assist the paramedic.
And did there come a point in time that morning where you were caused to go to 1098 Frederick Boulevard?
Yes.
And where was your station located at that time? Where were you located when you first received the notification to go there?
I was at Station 4, which is in Port Norfolk.
What street?
Broad Street.
And that call was for you to respond eventually to 1098 Frederick Boulevard, the Wal-Mart parking lot?
Yes, sir.
And how long did it take you to get there?
Shouldn't have taken long. It's
Okay.
Right down the street. I don't know a specific time.
Uh-huh.
Within a couple of minutes.
But you did not go directly to that location, is that correct?
No, sir.
You were caused to stage, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And stage means that you wait. What does stage mean?
Any type of unknown circumstances, violence, or we are told to stay until police have secured the scene. So when you stage, you remain dormant within a far enough distance so you're not at risk until you're cleared to go in.
And there came a point in time when you were cleared to go in.
Yes, sir.
And did you respond to that location?
Yes, sir.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Amen.
No objection to this photograph, Your Honor.
As you look at the photograph and see the recognize what's shown in,
Yes, sir.
and what do you recognize that as?
The crime scene? Or the location we responded to?
No, I believe there would be no objection at all. It's combo 6.
So, sure.
May I approach the witness?
Good night.
May I approach? As far as with the court's permission, I'm going to ask that you step down from the witness and point to certain things that you recognize and be photographed. Now, you indicate that is the scene that you responded to, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you see the vehicle that you came in?
Yes.
Would you point it out, please?
Medic forward, right there.
And is that approximately, or is that the location where it was parked after you got to that location?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
And what did you do after that?
We came out the vehicle. We had our bags with our supplies. We immediately got to the patient.
And did you see the patient in that picture?
Yes, sir.
Point out. All right, go on.
Once we got to the patient, we immediately took over CPR resuscitation efforts from the police that were on scene.
And how many police officers were on the scene at that time?
To my knowledge,
And what efforts were done in an attempt to...
You make it. You see it.
To your knowledge, what efforts were made in an attempt to revive the patient?
can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
And in your words, what efforts were made that you could observe in an attempt to preserve the patient or maintain life?
By myself or the police that were there?
By who you came with? What did you guys do?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry. I took over compressions, which is when you beat the chest to, push on the chest to continue circulation. Two other co-workers were then, we hooked them up to the monitor so we could check for pulses and his heart rhythms. The airway was secure, trying to give him breath. Compressions were done. We also had to place compression on a wound that was bleeding while doing compression. We also checked for pulses repeatedly, but unfortunately there was no pulse.
And did there come a point in time when those efforts were stopped?
Yes, sir.
May I approach the witness?
Show you the photographs and ask you if you recognize the person that's depicted on it.
Yes, sir.
And how do you recognize that person?
He was a patient.
Well, it's Commonwealth 7.
So,
Network.
do it. Right.
Yes, sir.
Describe what the individual appeared like to you when you first arrived. The patient, you refer to as the patient.
When we first arrived on scene, he was not moving, he was unresponsive. His eyes were fixed and open. There was blood everywhere. We were trying to establish where the bleeding was coming from to try to secure the bleed.
So, wait, take a picture. There, but you can ask a question.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, would you go ahead?
Recount what
Yes.
I saw. was told to do compression first, and every time I did compressions, there was just more blood loss. So we were trying to distill the wound as much as possible without putting pressure on it.
Mm-hmm.
But we weren't able to do that as well.
And Your Honor, if you have a moment, I'm just trying to find a least offensive picture. Now, may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You mentioned in your testimony that there was not a bleeding of blood. I'll show you this diagram, this photograph, sorry. You see if it can come close to depicting what you observed in reference to the amount of blood.
At the time of arrival, when we were working CPR, we were trying to resuscitate him. So with the compressions that we're applying, every compression that we do is going to create more blood to come out. So this is a picture after, not during, if that makes sense.
Judge, we'd object to the picture under those circumstances as the witness described it. Not accurate representation of at the time that she was doing it. This is as a result of the actions that she took to save his life.
Nothing further with this witness at this time.
Counsel.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
What does it mean when you stage?
Staging. Any type of crime that we're unsure of the situations, or call, please, take that back. Any type of call that we are unsure of the situations that we're walking into, we are told to stage. It's just our protocol. It's for our safety. So we're not walking into a situation that we could potentially get hurt, and then we cannot assist the patient any further. So any type of possibly violent crime. So once a gunshot wound or stabbing or anything that was a violent or weapon, we are immediately told to stage. What that means is we respond immediately, lights and sirens, but we stay a safe enough distance. Once we get a safe enough distance away, we stop, we pull over, we turn off our lights, and there's no more, nothing to, bring attention to ourselves. At that point, we wait until we're cleared by dispatch to proceed. Once dispatch came back over the radio and stated, you're clear, the scene is secure, then we proceeded in immediately. We turned back on, I turned because I was driving, turned back on my lights, my sirens, and immediately went to the location.
Now, the decision to stage you is made by the police department.
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, but
It's
you
protocol.
protocol.
Yes, sir.
In every case involving a stabbing, a shooting, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Until it's determined that the scene itself is safe for you to be able to perform what activities you can.
Yes, sir.
Right? And in this particular circumstance, you know Mr. Rankin, correct? You've seen him before?
Yes, we've worked together.
And you've worked with him before?
Yes.
In other circumstances?
Yes.
And so on this particular occasion, when you got to the scene, first of all, did you know that it was Officer Rankin that was at the scene?
No, sir.
But at the time that you got to the scene, you observed 2 police officers performing CPR on Mr. Chapman.
Yes, sir.
And one of those officers you determined to be Mr. Rankin, Officer Rankin, because you had known him before.
Yes.
And you called him Steve, I think. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
He was in uniform at the time?
Yes, sir.
And he was performing CPR with his hands?
Yes, sir.
The same way that you would perform any type of resuscitation effort to try and revive the patient.
Yes, sir.
But there was a second officer that was on the scene as well that was also trying to perform CPR?
Yes, sir.
Did you know that officer?
No, sir.
And in fact, you took over for Officer Rankin in the performance of the resuscitation efforts?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You stepped in and told him, I've got it, let me take over from here, in essence.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Just a few. In reference to, as you're doing the compressions, when you said the blood was flowing, that would cause the blood to flow more.
There was a gunshot wound to the chest. So it's flowing blood. What we do is try to stabilize that by holding pressure onto the wound. So one person was holding constant pressure onto the wound. I was giving compressions.
Okay.
But you're basically forcing them, you're trying to get the heart to beat.
Okay.
Okay? So whenever I did compressions, more blood would come out.
Now, was this blood getting on you or the person that was holding the wound?
Yes.
Okay. But when you got there, the patient was already unresponsive.
Yes.
Okay. That's good.
Yes, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Next witness.
I'll call Officer Sylvia.
I do.
I inquire, Your Honor.
You may.
Please state your name and occupation.
Officer Sylvia, Portsmouth Police Department, Uniform Patrol.
And for how long have you been a member of the Portsmouth Police Department?
3 years.
And were you working on April 22nd, 2015?
I was.
And what were your duties on that day?
Uniform Patrol Officer.
And did there come a point, what other duties, if any, did you have?
I'm on field evidence technician.
And what does that mean?
I process crime scene.
And what does that mean?
I take photographs with DNA, fingerprints, anything else to assist crime scene.
And on that day, did you have occasion to respond to 1098 Frederick Boulevard, City of Portsmouth?
Yes, sir.
And what is at that location?
Wal-Mart.
And did you specifically go to a particular area in Wal-Mart?
Yes, the entrance where there's a Wal-Mart sign.
And what did you observe upon arriving?
I responded to a shots fired call from Officer Rankin. When I arrived on scene, I observed Officer Rankin doing chest compressions on subject on the ground. The subject was assisting Officer Rankin. They were already taking that care of that, so I was scene and what
And did there come a point in time that you assumed any other duties?
Yes. I'm a police technician. I was notified by Officer Rankin to start taking photographs, at which point I was notified Lieutenant Smith to take overall photographs of the crime scene. Obviously not to manipulate any evidence, but to take overall photographs, at which point I did. I notated on my statement that I began taking photographs of Officer Rankin at 0740.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may. Show you this photograph and recognize the young man?
That is correct, the photograph I took of Officer Rankin.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of how he appeared when he saw him?
Not initially, but yes, that is how he appeared when I took the photograph of it.
Okay, describe how he appeared vividly initially.
When I initially saw him, he was on the ground doing chest compressions.
Okay, but he was dressed.
Correct, yeah, he had not changed his appearance.
The office is Commonwealth's 9.
No objection, Your Honor.
So we'll see.
The photograph that we see has Officer Rankin wearing gloves. Do you observe him put those gloves on?
No, I did not.
You took other photographs of the location of certain items, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And what were some of those other items?
The overall scene, taser on the ground, taser cartridge, shell casings, the subject on the ground, ground floor. And then the other, all-around photos of Officer Rankin and any gear he had on.
Show you these two photographs and asked you if you took them.
I took both of those photographs, correct.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of how those items appeared when you first observed them?
No.
What is different?
The taser was parallel to the curb when I arrived on scene. The photograph,
It's a little bit.
when I first arrived on scene, the taser was parallel to the curb. When I went to take photographs, I observed that the taser was no longer parallel to the curb. It was next to the curb in the images you showed here.
So when you indicated it was probably it was upright, and then we took the pictures of that.
Correct.
Any other movement other than that?
I don't know if it had been moved from where I saw it initially. I didn't map it. It could have been moved forward, I don't know, but I know that it was no longer parallel to the curb.
Of these is columns 10 and 11.
Cover sheets.
I approach them.
Thank you.
Officer Silver, I'm going to show you the photograph that's been marked as Commonwealth's 11. If you would turn around and look at it, sir.
You can step down if you need to.
In the upper right-hand corner, what's the object?
The taser, sir.
In the lower left-hand corner?
That's a taser cartridge.
And I'm going to show you, if you would, one more. What's marked as Commonwealth 10. See the item? Do you see the taser referred to?
Yes, sir.
And that's it there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You can be seated. Now, did you notice in your observations of Officer Rankin what type of equipment he had on him at that time? And if you need to refer to the photograph, I'll produce it for you. But do you remember?
He had OC spray, a flashlight, a firearm, 2 handcuff pouches, handcuff was missing, 1 handcuff was in the pouch, radio, taser,
He didn't have a gun.
You say OC spray. What is OC spray?
Russian Captain pepper spray type.
And what is the purpose of that?
To distract and it creates a burning sensation in the eyes and on the skin, makes the eyes water, difficult to see, to assist in somebody who's being non-compliant, taking into custody of somebody being non-compliant.
Someone who's being non-compliant or attempting to take them into custody?
For multiple reasons, but
Yeah.
yes.
And for policy, they have to have at least 2 of those on them, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Each officer?
Yes.
And that could be in different forms. Could be an asp.
Correct, an asp, taser, OC spray.
And did you notice any blood, or what appeared to be blood, on Mr. Rankin when you got a chance to observe him?
Yes, I did.
And where was that located?
In my statement, I notated that there was blood on his uniform, OC pouch, pants, shirt, boot, glove pouch, gloves, and on his hands underneath those gloves.
You took photographs of his hands after he took the gloves off?
Correct.
Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
As you look at these photographs and tell me these are the photographs that you took of Mr. Rankin on that day, at that time.
They are.
And off of these, no.
12.
And off of these is almost 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
While the clerk is marking those items, ask you another question. When you approached Officer Rankin, did you inquire of him at all as to how he was doing, or anything of that nature?
Yes, I asked him if he was all right, and he said he was okay.
As you observed Officer Rankin, it did not appear that his uniform was torn or ripped in any way as if he'd been in a fight. Is that correct?
Yes, he has scuff marks on his pants. I don't believe I notated any other obvious issues with his uniform as if they were torn.
They were torn? It was torn?
No, it was not.
He said scuff marks on his pants around his knees. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Show you what's been marked as Commonwealth's, well, I'll ask you to, with the court's permission, to step down. Can you see the photograph?
Yes, sir.
And could you point out the areas that you believed were blood that you referred to?
There's blood on his pants here,
Okay, that dot, yeah.
and there's scuff marks here and here.
Okay. And with the, you're not sure where those scuff marks came from, is that
Correct, sir, I
correct?
do not know.
But you did see him kneeling on the ground?
Yes, I did.
All right. With his knees?
Yes.
In the area those scuff marks are in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Where else, if anywhere, did you see blood?
There's some blood on his button and
That-
on his shirt as well over here.
Okay. Show you what's been marked as Commonwealth's 13. See any blood there? Can't hear your response.
They might, no.
All right. Show you what's been marked as Commonwealth's 14. Oops. I guess that's the better way. Right? Mr. Robleski, you're not going to have Mr. Robleski's assistance. I'm not doing too well with this one. You mentioned some blood. You see any blood noted there?
Yes, sir. There's some blood above the tag on this one here. There's also blood on the photograph. There's blood on his microphone button.
And that's the microphone button. That's where you would touch in order to communicate
Correct.
with the various other people in dispatch. Is that
Yes.
correct? Show you what's been marked as Commonwealth's 15. And you refer to a dash of some blood on his pants before. Do you see it there?
No, I cannot see it due to shadow. There's obviously blood on the floor.
All right. Show you what's been marked as Commonwealth 16. Well, you know better if you was, I'm sorry, just go straight to 17. Show 'em. See any there? Showing both legs.
Blood on his glove here. There's marks on his pants here and here. But I can't tell if there's any other blood from this point.
All right. You can be seated now.
All right, first question.
No further questions of this officer at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Officer Sylvia.
Good morning, ma'am.
When you arrived on scene, what was Officer Rankin doing?
Chest compressions on a subject on the ground. And there was another individual assisting him.
Who was assisting?
I couldn't tell at the time. I learned later it was Detective Mannings.
How many officers were on scene when you arrived?
Just those two. But I arrived about the same time as multiple other officers. As I was approaching from one direction, Officer Primus approached from another direction and assisted set of crime scene tape.
Did you see Officer Dykstra arrive on scene?
No, I did not.
Did you see him there at any point in time?
I can't recall.
At some point in time, was Officer Rankin relieved of the chest compressions and the CPR by medics?
I didn't notice.
When you observed Officer Rankin and took photographs of him, you noticed that his uniform was disheveled, correct?
Yes.
And explain to the jury what exactly you observed.
Like I stated before, he had marks on his pants, he had blood in multiple places on his uniform. But besides that, they're cotton type uniforms. They move as you move. So they're not hard pressed type uniforms.
Aside from the blood that you noticed on the gloves, and we'll get to his hands with the gloves off in just a moment, did you notice anything else about his hands?
They were shaking.
At some point in time, did you ask him to take the gloves off?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you observe at that point in time?
There was blood on his hands underneath the gloves.
And you took photographs of that?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach?
I'm going to show you two photographs. Do you recognize what's in those photographs?
Yes, those are Officer Rankin's hands, and I took both of those photographs.
And the red substance that is on his hands, do you believe that to be blood?
I do.
And you took these photographs?
I did.
Your Honor, I would offer these as
Defense Exhibit 1 collectively. May I approach?
1A and 1B.
Your Honor, may I have permission to publish these to the jury?
May.
Officer Sylvia, you testified that the photographs that have been introduced as Commonwealth's exhibit depicting the taser, that was not actually where the taser was located when you arrived, correct?
Correct.
If you could explain to the jury where you saw the taser?
It appeared to be in a similar location as to where I photographed it. However, the taser was not down on its side. It was flush with the curb with the grip end facing upwards.
Did you observe how it was moved?
No, I did not.
Or what caused it to move?
I did not.
How much time passed between the time you initially observed the taser and the time that you took the photograph of it in a different position?
I'm not sure.
You testified about taking a photograph of the location of the taser cartridge, I think is what you referred to it as?
Correct.
What is that?
The taser has a cartridge that has very long wires so that it can put the probes on the target. The cartridge holds those and the probes inside, and you attach it to the taser. And therefore it allows for you to reload another cartridge in the event that you need to fire your taser again.
Did you look at or handle the taser cartridge in any way?
No, I did not. I mean, I observed it to take photographs.
Did you see it? Did it appear that the prongs had been discharged?
On the taser cartridge?
Right.
The one that was, I didn't actually check that, no.
Okay. What's the purpose of taking the taser cartridge off?
In order to put another taser cartridge on.
Are you
Or
familiar?
in order to testify with the taser. But
What about drive stunning?
yes, you can do that as well.
How is that done?
The taser has no leads in order to put forth the electricity, You take the taser cartridge off in order to not fire the prongs, but in order to utilize it as a drive stun mode.
So in drive stun mode, you have to remove the taser cartridge to use it.
Correct. Or if you've already fired your taser, you can push it onto somebody and use it as another point of contact. It has metal leads on the cartridge as well, however.
After the probes, you say, have been discharged.
Correct.
So if the probes have not been discharged, in order to use drive stun, you have to remove the taser cartridge. Mr. Wiggins asked you about intermediate weapons, I believe briefly, and something about 2 of 3 being carried. Is there a policy in the Portsmouth Police Department about intermediate weapons?
The policy is use of force, but as far as what force options you can carry on you, you're required to carry 2 less than lethal force options, to include the baton, OC spray, and taser.
And you indicated about the use of force continuum. Where do the taser and the OC spray fall?
Similar, they're actually synonyms at the time of this event. They haven't changed since then.
What do you mean by synonymous?
You can use either of them.
So they're considered on the same level?
Yes. At the time of this event.
You testified about the items that were on Officer Rankin's belt, and you said that the taser was not on his belt, but there was a spot for the taser, correct?
There was a holster for the taser on his belt.
And there was not a baton on his belt?
Not that I noticed.
You didn't see a baton anywhere in the area, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Officer Sylvia. I don't have any other questions. May I approach?
I mean, Officer Rankin took his own gloves off. You didn't take them off, right?
No, I did not.
Okay. And I believe you did testify that at this time, anyway, the OC spray was an equivalent non-lethal as the taser was. Is that correct? And lastly, what type of weather was it out that day? Was it a very calm day, windy day? What?
I noted that the weather was warm and sunny, the asphalt of the parking lot was dry, and there was a slight breeze.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
No further questions. Thank
Wait,
you.
step back.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now, hold on a second. Members of the jury, you've been seated for close to 2 hours, so I'm going to take a 10-minute recess so you can go back to the jury room, get you some coffee, get you some water, do anything else you think you need to do, okay? Now, also, the clerk will bring you a menu. I'm going to allow you, I'm going to order lunch for you today, okay? And you get what you want, it's marked your name, all right? All right.
May we see the court is now recessed. Just a note to everyone,
as the jury is leaving, you all have to stand for that only when I announce all rise for the judge. That's the only time. Thank you.
And I thought you, based on what you had said before, I thought you would jump in on that.
Do you know what the actual photographs of my first
Looks like a OJ line.
Right. Right. I tried to stop it.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Yeah, because I don't want to walk down the door.
Well, they got to get a specific court order. Well, I don't know why in New York.